All right, welcome back to Module 3. We have dealt with the academic approach to religion, an introduction to the study of religion. We have dealt a little bit, in some ways I feel like I have to apologize for what we did not cover on the second week in the second module on Hinduism and Buddhism. But hopefully this gave you a good overview. One of the reasons why I enjoy teaching this class, and hopefully this will help you in the future, is here in America we're becoming much more culturally diverse. And then if you ever travel to Asia or to Europe or where some of these religions are practiced, you're going to run into a Hindu or a Buddhist at some point, or you're going to go to China, or you're going to go to India. And so I think it's important that we understand these religions, but also know that as we study these religions, we're also understanding other people's cultures. And it's important as we relate to other people that we know their cultures. And so if you go to India, hopefully this will help you a little bit. I'll have some more reading that is not required, but if you're interested and you'd like to study further, we have some ideas for you. So don't forget to look at the resources for that. Okay, now we're in Module 3, and we're basically going to stay in Asia, but now we're going to really focus on China in particular. And so we dealt with Hinduism, which was basically from India, and we dealt with Buddhism, which was basically from India, northern India, parts of Nepal now. Now as we turn to Taoism, this is predominantly China, and the origins of Taoism were in China. Now you'll notice as we go through this week that I have really spent some time as I go through Taoism also talking about Confucianism. Now let me tell you why I think that is very important. Basically there are two reasons. The first reason is if you go to China and you deal with certain Asian Chinese, then you will find an individual, all right, again, I don't want to be stereotypical here or use, generalized statements, but you probably will find an individual who has been deeply influenced in one way or another, directly or indirectly. He or she has been influenced by Buddhism, Taoism, and Confucianism. I was just talking to a student a few minutes ago before coming in and taping this, and he was struggling with why were we talking about Taoism and in light of Confucianism. And one of my answers was, if you go to China, it's very important to understand that you're going to see people who live within the Taoist mindset, and those same people live within the Confucianist mindset. So the first reason why we're dealing with this is so that we can really understand Chinese culture better. The second reason is because in many ways the Taoists disagree with the Confucianists, and the Confucianists disagree with the Taoists. Now, if you recall, I just said you might meet an individual that has all three worldviews going on at the same time. And so we in the West, again, our Western thinking coming up against Eastern thinking, we in the West were kind of like, well, which one is it? And for a lot of Chinese, it's all three. Well, which one is right? All three. And it would probably be unfair for me to tell you that Taoism is in this arena and Confucianism is in this arena, but I'm going to go ahead and do it. So let me give you an example. This student that I was just talking to. This is 2015, and one of the problems that we have right now, at least that we observe with China, is there's a real tension between capitalism or democracy and the government. I remember the first time I went to China in 1999, went down to Tiananmen Square, and I saw a McDonald's, and then I saw a KFC, and that was really confusing to me, because it's like, well, aren't they communist? Aren't they Maoist? Wouldn't they be anti-capitalistic? And the answer is yes and no. And one of the things that is very important to understand in regards to this is, in some ways, all right, again, I'm being way too global, but in some ways, the Chinese struggle, and especially the government struggles with democracy and capitalism, not because they're communists, but because they're in the Confucianist tradition. All right, now that's very important, because in Confucianism, ultimate reality comes down from heaven. Now, not the heaven that we think of in the West, but it comes down from on high. And so in Confucianism, there is a natural, but also a human world order to everything. And so a key word to Confucianist thought would be hierarchy. And so authority, order comes down from heaven to the emperor, or if you will, the government leaders, and then from there down to the family members, and then eventually to the youngest person. Here in America, you want to be young. The America belongs to the young. But in China, you want to be old, because at that point, and this is again Confucianist tradition, you have the authority, grandmama, what she says goes. You will get married or you won't get married because grandmama says yes or no. And so in Confucianist thought, and we take this back to a thinker, his name was Confucius. You probably heard the phrase Confucius say. He had a lot of great wisdom statements, pithy statements related to life. But Confucianism says basically there's a structure and a hierarchy to society, and it goes from top down, and it's very important that you live within that order. Now, go back to what I was saying. So I think the Chinese government and the Chinese people are struggling with democracy, which is very flat. And very many-pointed, if you will, multidimensional. And so they're struggling with democracy for lots of reasons, but one of the reasons would be because of Confucianist thought. Well, I also want you to understand that the Taoists disagree with the Confucianists, and the Confucianists disagree with the Taoists, and sometimes it's in the very same person. All right? We're talking about mostly Taoism this week, but you will find that at times I'll talk about Confucianism as a counterpoint and as a way of showing you difference, but also as a way of enlightening what's going on with Taoism. Well, let's finally get to it. Taoism is a religion. And there's some debate about that. There are some Taoists who would say this is not a religion, this is a philosophy. And there are some academic scholars who would say the same thing. But especially in China, it is a religion that hearkens or goes back to or tries to live in balance with the Tao. All right? Now, we in the West, we spell it with a T, but it's pronounced D, Taoism. And Tao in Chinese, all it means is the way. So this is the religion of the way. And according to Taoist thoughts, again, some of the major themes to Taoism, according to them, energy, or you've probably heard this word before, qi flows through the universe and flows through everything that exists, even inanimate objects. And so if there's anything wrong in the world, and let's go back to the categories that we've been using, if there's something wrong with the human condition, what's wrong with the human is he or she is out of balance. The qi is unbalanced. It's too strong here and it's too weak here. You've probably heard of the yin and the yang. All right? That's the yin is what they call the dark, the moody, the moon. The yang is the heat, the passion, the sun. And which one is right? Well, in Taoism, neither one. What is right between yin and yang is not trying to choose one or the other. You have to have both, but they have to be in balance. And so harmony is really important. You've probably experienced acupuncture. I have, or maybe you know someone, or you've heard of acupuncture. What's going on with that? Well, that is a medical practice that is that flows right out of Taoist thinking. And so an acupuncturist, again, way too simple, but an acupuncturist is trying to understand how the energy is flowing through your body or not flowing or out of balance, and that's where the pins come in, and it's just not pins. They use other instruments, but essentially the acupuncturist is trying to balance the qi that's flowing in your body so that your yin is not destroying your yang, or your yang is not burning up your yin. And so when we approach Taoism, try to understand it as basically, by the way, there is no personal deity. There's a force, there's an energy to the universe. By the way, we'll see a few clips from Star Wars. Yoda was very influenced by quote unquote Taoist thinking. And so the human being to live in harmony with the universe, and in particular to live in harmony with the nature, seeks to balance the qi and to live freely within the qi. And so as we talk about Taoism, remember I was talking about Confucianism and the hierarchy. In Taoism, you choose the path. It's very, can we say, democratic. You choose your own path. You learn what it means to be you in the universe and not to be someone else or to be something else. Those structures, they just get in the way. And so what does it mean for you to find the way? And then, without naming it good or bad, find it and find the balance. And according to the Taoists, that human being will find balance, harmony, and the real key word here is that human being will find serenity in his or her life.